So in our previous video, we learned how to create a nested ESXi template using Packer. In this video, we're going to learn how to take that template and create multiple nested ESXi hosts using Terraform. So as we finish this previous video, what I want to point out here just real quickly is that our template has a single hard drive as well as a single network adapter. As part of this provisioning of these 5 nested ESX hosts that I'll be doing during this video, we're going to make some changes. We're going to add some additional hard disks in preparation for vSAN. We're also going to add some additional network adapters so that later on we can configure ESXi. So the first thing that we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and we'll want to initialize our Terraform plane. So I'll type Terraform init. It's going to find the latest version of the vSphere information. It's going to pull that down, and it's now been successful. The next thing that we can do is we can run a command called Terraform plan. And what this is going to do is this is going to look at our plan. It's going to identify all of the changes that are going to be made in our infrastructure. And it's going to tell us right here, there's 5 things that we're going to add, 0 items that we're going to change, and 0 items that we're going to destroy. Remember, those 5 items are my 5 nested ESXi hosts. And finally, what we're going to do is we're going to type a command here called Terraform apply. And I'm just going to auto approve any questions that it may have for me, because what I really want to show you is what happens over here. Now, as we pay attention over here, we're going to see a handful of items kick off. If I pull this over just a little bit for you to be able to see that. There we go. So on the right-hand side, we can see the monitoring of the status of the Terraform plan as it's happening. On the left-hand side, we can see that we actually have 5 VMs that were just cloned from that template. They've all been powered on. And if we look at each of these real briefly, what we're going to see is they've got 2 network adapters. How about that? If I go ahead and look at the configuration of one of these just real quickly, we're going to notice that not only does it have multiple network adapters, but it has 2 additional hard disks that have been created. So my 5 virtual ESX hosts are powered on. They're going to go through their configuration process. The thing I should tell you is that I have pre-created DNS entries for these 5 names as well as their corresponding IP address, so that as they're being brought into the vCenter infrastructure and going through their guest customization, that they will indeed get their proper identity. So while this is happening, again, as I did before, I kind of want to show you what the files look like that made this possible. After you install Terraform, quick side note, please install the latest version of Terraform in order for this to work. That's 0.13.3. Basically, you have 3 files. We have our main file, we have our terraform.tfvars file, and our variables.tf. So the main file, and that's this file here, this file is going to be the main set of configuration for our module. It's also going to give us all of the variables and interesting information in here in terms of how this is going to happen. What interfaces are going to be in what port groups. The other 3 NICs are going to be added into a trunk port group. When we look here at the second file, this is all the specific information to your infrastructure. Again, these are my credentials to log into my lab environment as kind of previously seen. You can see here those additional disk sizes. Maybe you don't remember, but the initial disk size was 4 gig in the previous video for my first disk. That's now being increased to 40 gig. 111 gig for drive number 2, 222 gig for drive number 3. It's also adding my DNS information as well as NTP and domain. And it's doing all of this information and configuration as part of this Terraform plan that's being assigned right now. So not very often can we easily create 5 nested ESX hosts on the fly, let alone be able to go to each one of those ESX hosts and give them a set of configuration information that's different from the original template. Again, what we did, we added 2 additional hard drives. We set DNS. We set NTP. We are really, really close to being able to now create a vSAN. If you look here at this particular ESX host that I've highlighted here, you can see that it's gotten its static IP address. That's another thing. These things boot DHCP, and as part of the day 2 operations, they're all assigned a static IP. You can see that this one has 101, and this will fall right down in sequence, right, as these complete 102, 103, 104, and 105. Basically the last octet corresponding with the last 3 numbers here of the host name. And if we come back over here and just kind of check and see what the status of our plan is, you can see that it's still creating, still waiting for these to come back up and check in and essentially validate that all of the configuration information has been completed and your 5 ESX hosts are now ready to use. Now you can see you've got a message after 4 minutes and 55 seconds that 2 of the 5 are completed, 105 and 104. 101, 102, and 103 are still in process, and there you go. So in the first video, in 5 minutes, I showed you how to create a nested ESXi template. In our second video, I've shown you how to create 5 nested ESXi appliances from the template that we created in the first video, add additional hard drives, set day 2 information, and be able to complete that in a little over 5 minutes as well.